We have our hands full this week with a team that is coming off a bye week, so they're well rested and probably healed up. They're coming off a big win, beating Nebraska at Nebraska. Obviously, we played them last year. They're a very talented, very well-coached football team that knows how to play the game. So I expect them to come in here with a lot of energy because they're fresh, with a lot of confidence since they just beat Nebraska. And I think it's going to be a heck of a game.
Rocky, that said, you're a 2-touchdown favorite. What do you tell the players to make sure this doesn't become a trap game? What do you tell them during this week and before the game?
Well, I didn't know we were that kind of favorite, and hopefully they don't either, because then they're looking at the wrong damn thing. I mean, we go about it the same every week. It doesn't matter if we're the favorite or the underdog. We go about it the same every week. We try to keep everything routine, and we try to put the emphasis where it's needed on every game.
Coach, what jumps out at you from what they did in that game against Nebraska, and along with what they did against you guys last year?
Well, against Nebraska, they jumped out ahead with 2 interceptions that they returned for touchdowns. But they played well enough that Nebraska couldn't come back and win the game. And they also took the ball late in the game to score the winning touchdown against a very good Nebraska defense. But more than that, we know them pretty well because we played them last year. They're big and strong up front, and they're very, very talented and skilled at the positions they need to be skilled at. And there's a reason that they're one of the best non-Power 5 teams with the best record. And not too long ago, they played in the Orange Bowl. I mean, it's a very good program that's run by a very good coaching staff, and they've got talented players. That's why they're good.
Coach, Rashad Penny's name has been brought up more and more in the Heisman conversation. Is there any added pressure on the team to help him get to the top?
No, I think everybody enjoys the notoriety of that Rashad's getting, and Rashad handles it really, really well. He's a team guy, and I don't think it makes any darn difference to our team. It might at the end. If he's still in the hunt at the end, it might make a difference.
Why no banner? Giant banner for Penny?
Well, last year we thought we had a legitimate candidate coming into the season because of past performance. This year we didn't have a legitimate candidate because he was the backup running back last year. So why would you have a pre-arranged campaign for him? And it seems to work better since we didn't do it.
You knew he was going to be that good, though, didn't you?
No, we thought he was going to be that good, obviously. But if you don't have a record to show that he's been that good in the past, there's no reason to pre-hype him. And it seems to be working better that we didn't pre-hype him.
I'm assuming you're not a huge fan of divine intervention, but you've had a couple of strange occurrences now 2 weeks in a row with the lights and the weather delay. Is there anything in your mind that's starting to think, you know what, maybe this is our season, it's our kind of thing, things are going our way, we're getting some breaks that we need to get some games turned around?
Well, I don't think that the first one was a break for us. I think it was the first one against Stanford, that was a deterrent. At the moment, we had all the momentum. We were driving the ball, we had all the momentum, and the lights go out. That's a bad luck deal, if you ask me. Now, it turned out okay, but when you have that kind of momentum, you hate to see a drive stopped with that kind of momentum. Well, and then last week, we benefited from a lightning strike. I mean, that was a benefit to us. I think it really helped us. So I don't know does that mean that the next one's going to go against us again? You know, I don't know what's going to happen this week. But I don't think we benefited from both those. I think we benefited from last week, the lightning. I think that helped us come out of our doldrums and we played better. Now, hopefully we won't have any more of those this year.
What did you do during the delay? Did you make some adjustments defensively to take their fullback out of the game? And were you stunned at how tough the first 10 to 20 minutes on the field and the elements against that team were?
Well, it wasn't halftime. At the break, the first 15 or 20 minutes were set making adjustments like we would at halftime. Other than that, we sat around in the locker room with updates, and every couple minutes they come in and say it'd be another 30 minutes, it'd be another 30 minutes, it'd be another 30 minutes. We are actually surprised that we got out as soon as we did, because we'd been told it was going to be an hour and 35 minutes about a half an hour into the deal. So the rest of the time we just relaxed. Now, I think that the weather had something to do with the start of the game. I think the weather was more suited to their style of play than to our style of play. When we struggle running the ball, we have to be able to use play-action pass. They do not. They don't hardly ever throw it. Well, with the weather like it was, we could not throw it, and we probably couldn't have caught it if we got it there anyway. But that's not the reason that we struggled early in the game. The reason we struggled early in the game was Air Force was outplaying us. They were more physical, they were tougher, they were more intense, they were better coached. And the lightning strike allowed us to make some adjustments and get back on our feet and be good enough to win the game.
Rocky Parker Baldwin's going to be here in a little bit. Talk about his progress, and also, I mean, he leads the team in tackles. I think that's fairly good evidence that he's probably a really good run player, run defender. Talk a little bit about him.
We had a great game last week, but he's a very good player that we put in a position to make plays. He basically was a 6 or 7 yard deep middle linebacker last week against the Wishbone, and your middle linebacker ought to make a lot of tackles. But he's a good player. Last year he had to go in as a rookie when Naeem McGee got hurt, and ever since that time he's gotten better and better and better. He's a quality football player now, and he's in a position that should make a lot of plays. The free safety position or the middle safety position in our defense, he should make a lot of plays, and he's been playing really well this year.
What makes him as good as he is?
Oh, I think he has natural instincts where he knows where the ball is and he goes gets it and he's not afraid. People ask me all the time what makes a good tackler. It's a good athlete that's not afraid to hit somebody. It had nothing to do with technique or what you teach. If you're a really good athlete and you're afraid, you're going to be a lousy tackler. If you're a really tough guy that loves to hit people but you're not a good athlete, guess what? You're going to miss tackles. But if you're a good athlete and not afraid, you make tackles. And that's what he is. He's a good athlete and he's not afraid, so he makes a lot of tackles.
Rocky, as you've tried to grow the offensive line, progress in the run game, but Chapman's taken a lot of hits and a lot of sacks. Is that offensive line not holding up, or is it Christian holding the ball too much?
No, our offensive line is still, even though we're 4-0, our offensive line is still work in progress. I think they're improving every week. I think they're going to be really, really good here pretty soon. And then the future is bright for those guys because most of those guys are very young guys. When you develop an offensive line, actually run blocking is easier to teach than pass blocking. Pass blocking is a strange situation for an offensive lineman. Offensive linemen are usually aggressive guys, and so if they come off the ball and they have somebody to block, they usually do a pretty good job at that. Offensive protection, they have to give ground and absorb blows and move their feet. That's against their personality, and that's a very tough technique to teach. So pass protection is a lot slower in developing than run blocking is.
Having said that, Rocky, are they farther along than you might have thought they would be?
No, I don't think they are. I mean, we struggled running the ball Saturday against a team that moved around a lot. The week before, they actually played better against a better defensive line, but it was a defensive line that didn't stunt and move and blitz as much. Last week, they played against a smaller, quicker group that blitzed and stunted and all that kind of stuff, and they struggled with it.
It's been 40 years since Sdsu has won the game immediately following being ranked. How do you keep, I know the confidence has gone up for the players, and I know it's easy for you to move on, but how do you keep the players grounded, knowing that they're younger and going up against a team that are just coming off a bye week?
I don't know how you do it. I mean, obviously we try to do it by keeping everything routine and keeping them well-grounded and telling them about history and telling them, what they need to do to continue to be successful. And I say this all the time. You have to be around this age group to understand what I'm saying. They think what they want to think. It doesn't matter what you tell them. If they're willing to listen, it'll work out right. If they're not willing to listen, it won't work out right. They think what they want to think. Now, if I think way back 100 years ago when I was their age, I probably was the same way. They're at that age where they think they know best.
Yes, you got outplayed. You said you got outplayed early, and then they fixed that. What does that say about the team that they were able to listen and make those adjustments?
I think the team shows great spirit. I think we have all year long. I think we have a lot of confidence. I don't think, people made a big deal of us playing Power 5 teams and how can we beat. Our team's not afraid of anybody. I mean, we'll play anybody. You put anybody out there, we'll play them. And it'll be a darn good game. Put anybody out there, it'll be a darn good game because our kids will go out and play as well as they can. They'll be as tough as they can, and it'll be a good game. But I think they also have a great spirit because things look bad and the weather was terrible, and we have Southern California kids on our team that were freezing. In fact, the coaches were freezing. I'm soft as heck, too, because I live here. That have never even tried to play in any kind of weather situation like that. And that's a hard thing to do. But when they got a chance to get a break, which might have been divine intervention, I don't know, but when they had a chance to get a break and they went back out there, guess what? The weather was better too. And then all of a sudden we started performing a lot better. If we'd have played in that weather the whole game, there's no telling how bad we would have been beaten.
Is there an intangible to learn how to fight through adversity? And then secondly, is there intangible they have to know that these guys beat Nebraska? Does that wake them up?
Well, they know they beat Nebraska. Whether that wakes them up, I don't know. But they have a good spirit. It's very difficult for a team to play that poorly for however long that was and then come out and play that well the rest of the game. That's a difficult thing to do. That's a mindset. And that might also be because they're young. Things were bad, but we forget about that. Let's go have a good time. That might be a age deal too. But they have a really good spirit. They don't feel down forever, and they come back fighting.
When your team has the ball, you normally stand at the other end of the field. I assume you're thinking of your next defensive moves, etc. Jeff Horton, Mike Schmidt, and I don't want to leave any of the offensive coaches out, but how much confidence do you now have in these guys that they can change things and get your team turned around? I'll go back to the bowl game against Houston. It seemed you made a lot of changes. This last game, the same thing happened on offense, and it seems that you kind of just let them find their way and feel comfortable doing so.
Well, it doesn't seem like it. I do. I let them. They're in complete control. I don't do anything with the offense. I never sit in a meeting. I never call a play. I have great confidence in those guys for the last 5 or 6 years. They know what they're doing over there. They don't need someone sticking his nose in there that doesn't know what they're doing. I just stay out of their hair. The only thing I ever do is tell them to go for it on 4th down or not go. We're going to punt it. That's the only thing I ever do with the offense out there. They're great coaches. They understand our players. They come up with great game plans. And then Jeff really in my opinion, calls a really good game now. He also is an older guy that understands I'm a defensive guy, which means that we would love to have the offense out there for a long time. So he understands the situation. And when you have those kind of people working for you, the best thing you can do is get out of the way and let them work. So that's what I do.
When you're game planning, do you go to them and say, this is what I see Northern Illinois running, this is what I recommend we run against Northern's defense?
No, I don't watch the other team's defense.
You don't?
No, I just watch the other team's offense and their special teams.
The other night, you've told me, we've talked so many times about the wishbone and how much you love it, and you
Best offense ever designed.
And you told us last week, pretty much straight up, if the dive is working, they're going to rush for 500 yards and you're going to lose the game. So how concerned were you the other night, regardless of the weather, the way they were running the dive early in the game, and how did you fix it?
I was very concerned. So we made a couple tweaks to what we were doing on defense in order to play the dive a little bit better. but it still comes down to players. Just because we gave them a little better alignment or a little better position to play the dive better, they're still the ones that had to do it. They're still the ones that had to defeat a block. They're still the ones that had to go tackle the fullback. It still comes down to players. I thought our game plan going in was pretty good. There was some small adjustments that we had to make to our game plan that helped, but mostly it was the players decided not to get knocked off the ball anymore. Early in the game, they were getting knocked backwards, which made huge holes for the fullback. When we came back out after the break, we weren't getting knocked backwards, and guess what? There wasn't huge holes for the fullback. It's players. Players win. Coaches never win. Coaches can lose a game, but coaches never win. Players win.
Rocky, being 4-0, being ranked, does the target get larger on your back, and does it serve as a motivation for the opponent coming in as the weeks progress here?
My experience is it serves as great motivation for the visiting team or the team that we're getting ready to play on the road. Coaches use that. I've used that many, many times in the past. This is the first year I've never even mentioned rankings of the opponent or ourselves because there's no reason to. The players know. All I have to do is go and, if I don't know, all I got to do is ask one of them, they'll know. So there's no reason bringing it up except it is a motivation deal when you're playing someone that's ranked and you're not. That's a motivation deal. Just like if you're playing someone that's predicted to win the conference championship and you're one of the ones that was not picked, that's a motivational deal too.
In the past, when you've played ranked teams, do you remember specific instances where maybe it's helped or hindered you guys playing another ranked team?
I think it's helped in a situation where your team is looking for motivation. The best teams in the world don't have to be motivated. They're motivated by themselves.
Coach, you're among the top teams again in turnover margin for the last few years. What are some of the things you guys preach about that to instill that discipline in your team?
The way we practice. I mean, the whole time we practice, our defense is trying to make those kind of plays. We try to strip the ball constantly. We actually run into each other in practice where a lot of places they don't anymore. We actually run into each other and we try to strip the ball and intercept passes and go through receivers. And the receivers and the running backs are told constantly about not turning it over and holding on to the ball. And we make no excuses either way. And I think it's just the way we practice.
Coach, your special teams coach is another coach who's fantastic and has done a great job. But maybe it was the weather, but it didn't seem overall special teams. You had a typical Aztec type game the other night. You had a punt blocked, you had one go out of bounds, missed a field goal, etc. Any concerns in the kicking game right now going forward?
I think most of it was the weather. And when you analyze the game, the kicking game kind of came out equal. They had issues too, and I think it was the weather. They snapped one over the punter's head. They roughed our punter that actually gave us a first down when we were going to turn the ball over to them right before the break, so when we came out, we had the ball on their side of the 50. I thought that the kicking game was equal, poor on both sides.
But weather-related, nothing to be real concerned.
No, I think it was mostly weather. Now, our block punt was bad technique by us. Punter took too long, and the guy that was supposed to block the backside did not block the backside. But I'm sure they didn't think their center was going to snap it over their punter's head either. So the special teams were equal. They were both poor, but I think it was mostly weather.
When that long snap hits the ground, Air Force punter picks it up. He's not live target then?
He's always protected as long as he stays in with the framework of the punt. And that's what happened with our punter. Because that ball actually hit the ground. He caught it on the ground. And then he got up and punted it, and their guy hit him. Their guy thought he was live. He's not live as long as he's still in the framework of the punt.
All the years you've coached, aside from the Arctic game in Laramie at the end of last season, Is this as bad as you've ever seen?
Oh, this is by far the worst weather I've ever seen a team have to play in. I mean, obviously, I've been in colder weather, and I've been in snowstorms and blizzards and all that kind of stuff, but this was almost impossible. It was impossible to throw the ball and catch the ball. So if both teams were not right, if we were a spread team, we would have had no chance to win that game. The only thing that kept us in is that we were a running team just like them. But they had the advantage. When the weather was that bad, they had the advantage because they don't count on throwing the ball. We count on play action pass. If there's stuff in our run, we count on play action pass. They don't.
You guys had a lot of concerns with penalties in the first 3 games, then you go with no penalties. Was that from coaching them up? Or how did
Well, the only thing that proves that we coached them up was we haven't jumped off sides in 2 weeks. Okay, because we changed what we did in practice, and obviously I took the blame for that, and that was a coaching error. And we haven't jumped off sides since then, so they're taking the coaching. I think the idea that we had 0 penalties had a lot to do with the weather. I think those officials wanted out of there so bad they weren't going to call anything unless it was absolutely necessary.
All the years you've been head coach here, did you ever seriously think about doing triple option offense, even though you built a power base of great backs? Did you ever think about going that direction, and why not?
I don't think it fits the situation. I think it's the best offense. I really like the offense. I think it's the best because it's the hardest to defense. But I think there's a lot of other things involved. It's hard to recruit to that offense. Your fan base doesn't usually like that kind of offense. That's why the only ones running it are the academies. They already have, they recruit kids. Those kids aren't going there to be NFL football players. Okay, and their fan base is a solid fan base. Is going to be there no matter what offense or defense they run. Their fan base stays the same. It's not the same case with everybody else.